1964, when I graduated from Loras College in May, summer was a remarkable array of experiences. Wanted to go off to graduate school. I needed to have a job and make money. They were hiring at the Dubuque Packing Company, and I hired on there, working in the hide house. I talked about that experience, an incredibly dirty job of laying animal skins fresh from the slaughterhouse, there, from what was known as the cow kill in the packing plant. And I would have done that all summer, except that a remarkable opportunity came my way. And I had the chance to go from the cow kill to the Cow Palace, which was the name of the convention center in San Francisco where the 1964 Republican Party was taking place. Their national convention, going to select the presidential candidate. And being a political science major, I had significant interest in the processes in both political parties. We had had a mock convention in my senior year at Loras. We had a mock convention about the Republican process for choosing a presidential candidate, because on the Democratic side, everyone knew President Lyndon Johnson would be the nominee again and would run, being the incumbent. But on the Republican side, it would be a real struggle between the conservative Barry Goldwater and the more moderate centrist Republican Governor Bill Scranton of Pennsylvania. And one of my good friends from Loras, a fellow political science major who was an active Republican, was invited to come to the convention. And he could bring a couple of his friends. His name was Pete Geisler. Pete called me up. I turned in my notice at Dubuque Pack. We hopped in his 1962 or 3 Chevy Corvair, pretty tight, packed 3 of us in. The other Loras grad who went with us was named Mike Mim, who lifelong Democrat. And we hit the road on Highway 20. There were no interstates in those days, and just headed west. And several days later, made it to San Francisco, and Pete connected with his contact, and we go out to the Cow Palace. So the Cow Palace was so named because it used to be the place where sales of livestock took place. Now it had been converted into this huge amphitheater where huge gatherings of people, in this case the 1964 Republican National Convention, could take place. The way it worked, how we got in, since we weren't delegates, we didn't have any credentials, was that Pete's contact was a man who said, "Well, meet you out at the gate." He came out, he had 2 tickets. He handed 1 ticket to Pete. He and Pete walked in together. They got inside. Pete gave him the ticket. He came back out, gave it to Mike Mim, escorted him in, and then came out and repeated the process and brought me in. So here we are, 3 22-year-olds, just graduated from Loras College in Dubuque, Iowa, and we're wandering about the convention floor. That we didn't have official badges, didn't seem to matter once we were inside. And we got to see the candidates, we got to see the delegates interacting on the floor. But what I remember is that this was the birth of the conservative movement. The conservative movement that is so powerful in the Republican Party, that has been such a force in and of itself. And here with Barry Goldwater of Arizona struggling, fighting to get the nomination, and the other elements of the Republican Party, the Rockefeller Republicans, the Scranton Republicans, many Iowa Republicans holding to the middle. And the Cow Palace was arranged so up on the walls, fairly high up, there were walkways, and up there were the 3 network TV booths. CBS, NBC, ABC. There were 3 TV news services. That was it, no cable news. And I remember the Goldwater conservative delegates standing up during one session where one of the speakers on the stage said something about the press, and standing up and looking up at the news booths and pointing their fingers at them like this. It was the beginning, the first moments of the disdain that would be by 2019 so intense within the conservative movement and among many conservative Republicans about that the media and the national press are biased against them. And so here was the beginning of this. It was startling in 1964, but I was present to witness the birth of the conservative movement at the 1964 convention that went on to nominate Barry Goldwater to be the Republican presidential candidate. We were staying in a hotel that when we looked out the window, we could see a penthouse suite on a hotel near us. And in there was a congressman named Bill Miller from New York. Unheard of person. He was chosen to be Goldwater's running mate. Don't compromise. Don't bring in a moderate Republican to balance the ticket. Miller was one of the few at the time really conservative congressmen, and he had that support, and he was the one chosen, so that the 64 ticket was in fact a solid conservative ticket, the beginning of the conservative movement that is such a powerful, powerful force in American politics in 2019.